Hey everybody, it's me, it's Undead Viking, coming to you with another video review. I'm doing another Kickstarter video today, as you probably know from clicking on the link. This game is called Gear and Piston. I do apologize, I don't really have anything other than some cards and maybe this paper prototype board to show you. I don't have a box to show you anything like that, but which is too bad, because the reason why I actually got interested in this game in the first place was due to the fact that I saw the box cover art actually on Board Game Geek, and it showed this very crazy looking old-timey automobile that some guy was trying to drive it, and it struck me as very whimsical and funny looking. And I remember clicking on the link and I did some research on the actual game itself, and I contacted the publisher, and I was wondering when the game was coming out, and they told me that it was in Kickstarter, and we talked a little bit, and one thing led to another, and they sent me a prototype of the game to show to you, that hopefully I'll be able to impress upon you why I kind of dig the game, and maybe at some point during this video you'll realize that maybe this is a game that you'd like to have on your shelf, and you'll go to the Kickstarter and you'll back it, and this game can get published. Gear and Piston, the theme of it is the dawn of the invention of the automobile. And so you and everybody else at the table are inventors trying to take a hodgepodge of different pieces to put them together and create the best automobile. And not only do you need to make the best automobile by getting good pieces that work together, but also there are a couple of investors that are looking for something specific from each person's design. And so the winner of the game will be the person that is able to both satisfy those investors, but also make the best car as well. You do this by, it's an action placement, worker placement type game. So there's spots on the board that allow you to collect cards, which are the pieces to the different pieces to the car, and then you collect those cards, and then you use spots on the board to play those cards and put them in front of you. And it has a lot of neat little interactions and mechanics that I really enjoyed, for a medium to lighter weight game of this type. But enough, whatever. Let me show you, as I always do, show you how to play the game, and then I'll tell you exactly why the game appealed to me, and then hopefully, like I said, at some point, you'll decide for yourself whether or not this is something that you'd be interested in having for your very own. Without any more wait or whatever, why don't I show you how to play Gear and Piston. All right, here we go. Okay, here you go. This is the game board for Gear and Piston. This is a prototype, and as with any prototype version of a game that I get, I do say that so I can tell you that the artwork that you see in front of you could very well end up being the artwork that's used during the game, but I'm not going to guarantee that. So this it might change between now and the actual final published version comes up. I'm not going to do a really in-depth overview as far as like each action of the game. I'm just going to kind of show you how the game works. I've set up a 4-player game. The game does handle between 2 to 6 people, and I think personally it handles each rendition of each player total quite well. I haven't played with 5 people, but I have played it in all the other numerations, and I had enjoyed it in those as well. There are 4 locations where you'll be placing your action pawns. There are the back alley, the patent office, the junkyard, and the workshop. The back alley is, I'll explain in a little bit, but in both the patent office and the junkyard is where you collect these cards that are like part of your blueprint. Your blueprint is considered to be cards in your hand, and they actually become your car or your prototype or your design, if you will, when you go to the workshop and you actually take the cards out of your hand and place them in front of you and build up your vehicle. Before the game begins, there's a couple things we have to do. We have to set up the board, and to do that we have to go ahead and take these 2 decks, and they have 1 and 2, and these are the investors. There's 2 investors that are interested in our designs. And this, depending on what the investors ask for, that's how we're going to earn bonus victory points at the end of the game. So we'll take the top card from this deck, the top card from this deck. We won't use any of the other cards. We'll just go ahead and get rid of those. And we'll turn them over and we'll take a look and see what they have to say. Card number 1 states that this is a grid, and it tells us what the investor is looking for. He has these 3 icons over the side. You might be saying, well, what the heck do those mean? If you look at this, this is considered to be the front part of your car. You'll see that's power, range, and comfort. Don't worry about reliability and volatility just yet. I'll explain those in just a moment. If you look here, he is looking for comfort over range over power. So at the end of the game, if your car has, say, 4 icons in comfort, it'd be worth 7 points. If they have 4 icons in range, it's worth 6, and 4 icons in power, it's worth 5. If you only have 1 icon of that in your design, it's not going to be worth any points whatsoever. If you should somehow manage to build more than 5 icons, say 6, you just add 2 points to the total. So like 6 points in comfort would be worth 12. All right. The second card, investor, is looking for a hybrid car, meaning that it has this is the icon for a motor. I'll show you. This is considered to be the back of your car, so you'll see these in front of you. These are the different components of your car. Other than enhancements, you have to have at least one of these in your car. Enhancements you can have, as it says, 0, and it doesn't matter. You notice under the steering wheel, you can only have a maximum of 1. And you also notice under wheels, or axles, you need 2. But everything else, you can have 1 of, or you could have more of. It should be noted that if you have a motor, it has to have fuel. And it doesn't really do any good to have a fuel tank without a motor to help it. So, you might be wondering what these different colors are. Red is considered to be fuel. This is an electric engine, and that's a steam engine. So you need to have some combination of 2 engines, and then you'll get 3 extra bonus points at the end. So we'll go ahead and we will place these over the side of the board to remind everybody how that works. Before we begin, we have to determine the first player. The beginning of the first player is whoever has the oldest car. That's right out of the rules. I suppose you could do that randomly if you really wanted to, but whoever has the oldest car gets to be first player. Makes me wish I still had my 1976 Chevy Nova. Then I would go first almost all the time. But anyway, we'll go ahead and we'll set the word. These are the patent office, and we turn 6 of these cards over. These are considered to be new and fairly good components. And we're just going to put these 6 here, and I'm just going to explain really quick. I'm going to show you a couple of them just so you know what they do here. Let's turn these over. And there we go. We got 6. Now you can see there are tops and bottoms, and so just so you understand what that means, and don't make any jokes here. Anyway, so this obviously is a seat and a steering wheel, and you can tell it's steering wheel because it has that icon right there. You can also see that it provides comfort, which is probably a good card to have since we have an investor looking for comfort. Anything with this dip means that it is a top component of the car. Anything with this straight line and the road underneath it is considered to be a bottom component. This is obviously an axle. You can tell when it's wheel, and plus there's a wheel icon. And once again, there's a component there for comfort. So a couple of good components for the one of the investors are looking for. I'll show you this really quick. This is an enhancement. You can tell by looking there. It is, oh, I should turn it right side. You can tell that it is an enhancement. It is on the bottom of a car. You can see there's the road and the straight line. And this is reliability. Reliability will help you keep your volatility down in your design. Volatility is checked each round, beginning of the round, and you look and see how much volatility icons you have in your design, and you raise this on that chart depending on the volatility. A volatility it looks like that. And notice how this is a junky wheel. It's all got broken spokes. It's lopsided. You can still an axle. You can still use it as an axle, but it adds a point to your volatility. At the end of the game, for every point of volatility you have in your design, you deduct 1 point from your final score. So having something like this is helpful in reducing the volatility of your design. We take 3 cards over here, so we're going to see that wheel again that we just saw. We're going to see this broken down electric fuel and a broken down steam engine. That is the cards that we have available that everybody can see. And now what will happen is, starting with the first player, you'll start to take your actions. Because we have 4 players, we are allowed to use a certain number of the spots available. You'll notice, and this might be tough for you to see because the color on the board isn't exactly really bright, but like this spot here in the back alley has a 6 on it, meaning that this spot is only activated if you have 6 players. You notice like this spot here, and I doubt you can see this, but it says 4 to 5, meaning this spot in the workshop is activated when you have 4 to 5 players. And like these say 3 on them. So it does scale well for having less players and only allowing certain spots to open up. Also, it should be noted that each person has 3 of these action pawns. Because it's a 4-player game, each person gets 3. If you were playing with 3 or 2 players, each person would get 4. So you can use more actions and use up more spaces. So to begin with, you just take the first player takes their action, and they go ahead and they'll place. And once again, if you ever played a worker placement game, you place your pawns like so in the different spots, and and each person gets a turn. And so I'm just kind of dropping these down. But as they choose these locations, they'll get to take the action that the spot affords them. So, oh, I got one more here. Let's go there. All right. So. And as it works, you start with, normally the first thing you notice by the 1 is you check volatility. Nobody's got a design yet, so we don't worry about that. So, whatever. The volatility all stays at 0. The next thing is the first player in the second spot is here, and the white has a player in the back alley location. Now the back alley is kind of like the evil things you can do to mess with other players, and also they're kind of things that strengthen you a little bit, but they also they also comes at a price. Normally, after you do an action, say like when you get to this, you take your action, you just place your token over there, meaning it's ready for you the next turn. You can use it. In this location, if you use this, you move it into this box located right here, and it stays there until after the next turn, meaning that you basically lose an action for 1 turn after you use the back alley. When you're using the back alley, you take 1 of 3 actions. You can draw 3 cards off the top of the new deck, and then pick 1 and keep it, and then take the other 2 and either put them underneath the deck or on top of the deck. Now, why would you want to put it on top of the deck? If you happen to have, say if white happened to have his worker there, he could place the piece that they really want, because when you take your action here, you can either take one of these cards up here, or you can draw blindly. So he could put another card that he really wanted in that spot, and then he'd get 2 cards that he really liked. But another action that they can take is they can look at another person's hand. You can have a hand of cards, and they're the blueprints. Up to 5 cards is the max. You can't have any more than that. And you can look at somebody else's hand, you can just take one of their cards, steal it from them. Obviously, if you have 5 cards in your hand already, you can't take that action. You can't take something because that would put you over your limit. The final action is that you can go ahead and move one of your pawns up to for the first player. So if he took that action, he could say, oh, I'm going to move my token up to the top, and then that shoves everybody else down. And so then he takes over that spot. So those are the 3 actions you can take in the back alley. Now I've already kind of explained and so let's just say, well, took an action. Let's say you drew 3 cards and picked 1 or whatever. Now when we get here, as I said, you can either take a card up here or you can draw 1 blind. And so each person will, like I want this wheel, and then blue goes, and I want this, and green will take 2 cards, and they decide that they want this engine, and they want that engine. And now white finally gets to go, and white will take that. And so then those cards are gone. You leave this card up there, you will discard it at the end of the round. Now, when you get over to the junkyard, you're able to take 2 cards. And so, but the thing that happens here is, once again, you can draw from the deck if you so desire. But what you do here, though, is like, so if you take the card, you immediately replace it in the junkyard. So you place another one down. And so blue says, well, I want this wheel. And then and they're done with their turn, but then you replace it again for the player who's playing in black. And so they're going to take that one and replace it again. Oh, wheel. So we'll take the wheel. And so now they're done. Now, this is when, in the workshop, when you actually get to start placing the cards from your hand down in front of you. The first person here gets 3 actions. The next person gets 2. Then everybody else gets 1. The 3 actions you have to choose from are placing a card down in between your front and the back. So if you had, say, this card, you could just play that down there. It's an electric engine. Yeah. So we go ahead and place that down. And if that's your only action that you can do. But let's say we're green, and so we get 3 actions. And so they could place one, and now they have another action. And so they're going to take another action, and let's just say they had this wheel, and they're going to place the wheel underneath. Now, with axles, that's how you kind of have to base your entire car on. When you place an axle, it allows you to place cards in the 5 locations around it, both diagonally and orthogonally. If you don't have an axle, I mean, you can put that down there to begin with, but eventually, like, you can't just build off like 2 over. You'd have to have another axle that would support the weight, so to speak. So he places that, and then for his 3rd action, he'll go ahead and, you know, like, if he had that, you know, he's going to place that down there. It's got the enhancement that will actually get rid of that particular bit of volatility, and so then his design at that point is it has no volatility, and it's doing pretty well. So now the other actions that you can do are, if for whatever reason, let's just kind of fast forward here just a little bit, and let's say for whatever reason he's maybe going for the hybrid, so he's got another engine. He's got the steam engine going, and he doesn't have any fuel for it yet, but he still had the steam engine. He wanted to place it down. Well, let's say he just decided that he didn't want to go steam anywhere. As an action, you can just discard a card. So you can just take it, destroy it, throw it away. It goes in the discard pile. You don't have to worry about it. I mentioned when I'm saying discard cards, there is no discard piles for these decks. They never replenish. That's actually one of the ways the game can end, is if you actually finish off these decks. So that's one of the actions that you can do there. Another action you can do is just called a replacement action, which means you take a card of the same color. It doesn't necessarily have to be the same type, but it has to be the same color. And you can place it over the card that was located there. And then you just take the... So I had a broken down steam engine. I drew a good steam engine. I place it over the top, and I can go ahead and get rid of that card. And then, you know, so now I actually have a good piece to the puzzle, if you will. So that's how you use the workshop, and those are the 3 different actions you can do there. You know, other than that, I mean, that's kind of how the game flows in all the different locations. As I said, after the turn is done, you take the cards that were not picked, you ditch them, and then you go to the beginning of the next round, you figure out the volatility, you replenish the 2 decks so you know what you have to choose from, and you begin again. Everybody gets all their action pawns back, unless you had unless you took one of the things from the alley, and in which case white would not get that action pawn back, but everybody else gets theirs back, and then they go ahead and take their actions for the next round. I'm going to actually show you more in depth how like the end of game scoring goes, and maybe show you a better design for a car as well. So I'm just going to cut away really quick, and I'm going to show you that so you can get a better idea of how the end game works. Because the end game can happen, like I said, either if you get rid of all the cards in either one of these decks, or if somebody manages to build a car that is comprised of 12 pieces, meaning that, you know, there's 4 here. So if 8 more pieces on either side manage to build a car that large, and if there's ever a turn after the workshop phase, somebody has a car that's built out of 12 tiles, the game immediately ends at that point. You go into the in-game scoring as well. But let me show you how that in-game scoring works. I do apologize, before I go into the actual final scoring and show you how I would score this mishmash of components, there was one part of the worker placement or action pawn placement that I did not explain. With a lot of games, there is a first player marker, which is this, and being the first player is actually a big deal. In order to determine who gets the first player marker, on the workshop location here, after all is said and done, after all the pieces are placed, before you start removing them, you look at the person who placed the last token in that particular location, and then that person gets the first player marker. So in this case, blue would be the first player for the next round, and they would be very pleased with themselves. So, there. I do apologize for not showing you that, but that's how you determine the first player marker in Gear and Piston. Alright. So the game is over. This is the white player's concoction. This is the automobile they tried to make. You notice that they did not quite finish it, and there's some other issues with the car as well. Well, as I said, there's a spot that's missing, and you have to fill that. You can't leave it open. But also, he has, if I'm going to pretend it wasn't me, he has this steam engine, as you can see by the icon that's listed down there, but he has no steam fuel. He does have a steam enhancement, if you will, but you know, that's not doing him any good. It's not fueling his engine. So he has to either get rid of this or figure out some way to get that particular part power. Now, whenever you're doing this at the very end, you have to use items from the scrap deck to replace the spots that aren't working in your car. And the problem with taking pieces from the scrap deck is that they have volatility on them. Almost all of them do. They either have 1 or 2 points of volatility, and volatility counts against us at the end of the game. There are some cards in there that have 0 volatility, and if you're lucky enough to get those, then you can perhaps not end up on the fuzzy side of the popsicle, if you will. So what you have now is you have some choices you have to make. Well, you have to replace this one, so you might as well grab one and place it down there. And there's another volatility. Well, that's never good. So we're going to add a volatility to the volatility score for the player. However, you'll notice, remember, that the investor wants comfort, range, and power. And you'll see I have a range and a range, 2 of them, that are going to get me 2 points at the end of the game if I keep them. And then I have one thing out there that's power. It's not doing me any good. It can't really help me at this point. So I'm going to gamble. I'm going to hope that I get something that doesn't have a lot of volatility on it. And I'm going to replace this part. And I'm going to say that the scrap piece that I'm drawing is the fuel for my steam engine. And this is big because remember, there's also this hybrid option as well over here. So I draw a piece of scrap, and I got lucky. There's no volatility whatsoever. So my volatility score doesn't increase. I now have fuel for my steam engine, and I can go to my final scoring. So the first thing I'm going to check is you check to see what is the largest continuous spots on the car of one single color, not counting scrap. And that's obviously going to be green. I have 1, 2, 3 parts of this green, and so I can add those together. I can go 1, 2, 3. So I got 3 points for that. Now the next thing you do is you're going to go and you're going to look at whether or not you satisfy the investor's desires. And we've already said we got the two different motors, both an electrical one and a steam one, so it's a hybrid. So I get 3 points from that. 1, 2, 3. And now we go and we look at the investor, what they wanted as far as the pieces. I have, as you can see, 1, 2, 3 comfort, and then that's what they want, the little feather. 3 comforts worth 5 points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then, as I mentioned before, I managed to keep both this range and that range with 2 of them, meaning I get 2 more points. Now, I have to take my volatility into account. I have 2 volatility. I don't check power because I already said we didn't have enough. We don't have any power at all left on the car, actually. We check volatility. I got 2 points volatility, so I decreased my point total by 2. So now I have 11 points. And hopefully, that's good enough to win the game. And nobody else came close to that score. So, you know, I don't have the other ones. I apologize. I'm not going to show you. But they do have tiebreakers. You know, you go by volatility, or you go by number of cards were in your hand at the end of the game, things like that, to do tiebreakers to determine. But usually, I haven't had a tiebreaker situation yet. So we were able to just go by point total. But there you go. I hope you have a really good idea of how to play Gear and Piston. I've had a lot of fun playing it with my friends. But let me tell you exactly what I think of the game. You know, when I hold the discs like this, I'm reminded of that horrible chalk candy Necco wafers that like nobody liked except for like your mom, who it reminded her of like when she was a kid when candy sucked or something. I don't know, I just never liked it. That and like, yeah, there's all kinds of that chalky stuff like Sweethearts and stuff like that. You know, I'm sure there'll be like half a dozen of you like, Necco wafers are awesome! Or something, I don't know. Anyway, okay, so now you should probably knew how Gear and Piston is played, unless you skipped ahead, which fine, I guess, whatever. If you want to hear what I have to say, then cool. This is what I think about Gear and Piston. You know, there are lots of games out there that are based upon placement of workers or action pawns, if you will, and the collection and hand management, if you will. And it takes games, you know, at least for me, it takes a game to give me a couple of or aha moments as I'm playing them to inspire me. And you usually games have to be kind of like I get that feeling from games that are really in depth, you know, and just have layer upon layer of mechanics, and then all of a sudden, like at some point, the you know, it clicks, you know, all the different little Lego pieces, you know, fit together, and I go, oh, that's how that does, you know. But you know, Gear and Piston is not a difficult game mechanics wise. You know, it's really straightforward. However, there is enough depth here for me that it satisfies that aha moments that I really enjoy. Something that stands out for me is the back alley location. I really don't like games that don't at least try to give me some way of messing with the other players at the table. I can play games that don't have that, and I can enjoy them. But nothing bothers me more than when I am playing a game and I'm watching somebody who is just, for whatever reason, better player, getting lucky, whatever. They're not better player. They're always luckier than me. But they're kind of moving ahead of me, and I just can't do anything about them. I can't ever, you know, reach out and grab them by the back of their shirt and pull them back, you know, to my level. And that bothers me, that I can't affect them. And because of that location on the board, you know, I can go in there and I can like take cards in their hand, or I can move ahead of them on the track. You know, and I know there's a card that they really want to take, and I really want it too. Well, I can go to the black market and I can move ahead of them, and I can get that for them, and I'm just, and I can screw them over a little bit like that, and in the meantime make myself better as well. And I enjoy that that portion of the game because it adds another layer, and I like the fact that it comes with a price. I'm not able to use that particular action bond for a full turn, and that's a big price to pay. I mean, to lose that ability, but you have to weigh that against will I gain enough to make sure that it's worth that? And so I like that portion of the game. It's where you enter into that tough decision area, which is always nice. I don't want games to have easy decisions, and this game has tough decisions for you because the fact that you have to kind of weigh all the different spots against each other in order to be successful. You have to get the pieces, but you also have to spend time in the workshop as well to actually put them into play. I mean, there is a hand limit of 5, obviously. I believe I mentioned that in rules. If I didn't, there's a hand limit of 5, so you can't just get a giant deck of cards in front of you and then just now I'm going to use the workshop 17 times in a row, and I'm going to just put these all in front of me now. So I mean, you kind of build what you have in your hand up, and then you slowly get rid of it, and you build it up, and you slowly get rid of it. And the entire time, you're racing against everybody else, trying to make sure that your car, because they're right there. It isn't like it's secret behind a screen or anything like that. It's right there. You can see their car, and your car is like 10 times better than mine, and so you're racing to get that car, up to speed and better than what everybody else is building. And I like that as well. I like being able to see what other people are doing. I like to see where their strategies are going, and maybe then I can affect that, or I can alter that in some way. And that's where the game actually starts opening itself up to you, and you start trying to once again weigh your options. Do I take this part because it'll help me more, or do I take this part that'll help me a little bit less, but it's a part that I know that my buddy over here wants to have, and those things. And one of the things that I really thought was really cool is, like, the first time I played the game, I totally didn't want to get anything with volatility. That just stuck in my head. Volatility. Don't get bad pieces. Don't get bad pieces. And so I had that stuck in my brain. And so I would never use the junkyard. And I was sitting there and I was just always using the area that's the patent office. And so I in my car, what I had looked really nice, but what I didn't realize was, because when you go to the junkyard, you're getting 2 cards. It was, at a certain point, it was better for the other players. They realized that I can build a car, and I can maybe mitigate some of the volatility that I'm getting because I actually have a car. Whereas now I'm ending the game, and you have 4 pieces that you managed to put out, whereas I have 12. And I had to fill up my car with a bunch of scrap, which just totally made it worthless, and I ended up losing that game. And so there's, once again, it's you're weighing the different spots against each other. What do I need? What's the best option for me right now? Those sorts of things. And I really but I really fell in love with the design. I really fell in love with it's really easy to teach. It's really easy to play, because the options, while are varied, there isn't a lot of slowdown, there isn't a lot of analysis paralysis, if you will, and it doesn't last forever. It's about a 30-minute game. It's a 30-40 minute game, even with 5 or 6 people. You're getting up into 45-minute area range with that many people, but still, that's not a lot of time. And I love the fact when you get to the end, it's still kind of a grab bag. You might have a good shot at or an idea of how many points you're going to have, but with the scrap and the different points that you can gain from the different investors and things like that, I really it still feels like it's anyone's game at the end of when the game finally does end. And you total that up, and it's like, it's kind of like, I like that. I mean, some people aren't a big fan of hidden point totals, and this isn't really totally hidden because there's open knowledge. You can see what everybody's got, But unless you're just sitting there going, okay, yeah, okay, yeah, you probably have 11 points right now. I mean, you probably have a decent idea of where you're standing, but with the added randomness of the scrap deck at the end, that can cause a bit of a swing there, and so and I do like that. I mean, some people are gonna have a problem with that, as far as maybe there's too much randomness in this game, but my group, we don't mind that. We don't mind that kind of unpredictability, if you will. And so it's all about mitigating that, and putting yourself in a position to prevent that from happening to you. I guess there's some games that don't allow you to mitigate randomness, but I do believe that Gear and Piston does give you more than your fair options to try to prevent the chaos of the game from being your excuse as to why you did not win. So, well, there you go. So Gear and Piston, it's in Kickstarter, or if it isn't yet, it'll be very, very shortly. I hope somewhere along the line, as I said, you figured out whether or not this is something you want to back and get the game published, so you can get a copy of the finished design delivered straight to your door. If you have any questions or comments, I'd love to hear them, and please put those, and I'll answer those to the best of my ability. And as always, I thank you very, very much for taking the time to watch this video. So, until next time, this was Undead Viking, and you have an awesome day. Bye-bye.